Welcome back, Truth Seekers. This is Athanasius on the Athanasius Reports, and it has been a busy last couple of weeks, both across country and at my own home here. But not talking about myself, let's go ahead and talk about what's been going on here. Let's start with the ugly, that being Obama. We had him at the UN talking some whatever policy speech. It doesn't really matter because the main focus of that speech was how he had another opportunity to trash America and call Americans all sorts of things from lazy and stupid and so forth. I can't wait for this guy to get out. I can't believe that he still has the popularity that he does. But we also have some more information coming out about the Iran deal. Apparently, the reasoning behind the deal going through, or at least part of it, could happen to be Boeing. The Republicans, as you know, didn't really protest the Iranian deal. Instead, they passed the Corker bill that essentially allowed the president to ratify the deal without any input from Congress, which is completely against the Constitution in that the president cannot ratify any treaties, anything dealing with foreign national entities unless it goes through Congress first. But the Corker bill essentially allowed him to do whatever the hell he wanted on it. I mean, you start to ask, why the hell are Republicans just bending over backwards on this? Well, this is where it gets interesting. Boeing apparently has been pushing to get access into Iran because Iran, due to the long-term sanctions, their infrastructure is really degraded. And Boeing sees an opportunity for them to sell a number of airplanes to the Iranian airline. And right after the deal went through, Obama gave Boeing the green light to go ahead and sell planes to Iran. Yeah, folks, this is just getting uglier every day in terms of just exposing the the cronies inside our government. This system needs a real major overhaul, and unfortunately, we're not going to get one unless we essentially vote Trump in. If we vote Hillary in, folks, you're going to see this commonplace every day, and you're not going to be able to do a darn thing about it. It's just a real shame. We also saw from Obama him going out and trying to gin up black support for Hillary Clinton. If you've been looking at the numbers, Hillary's support is hovering somewhere in the 70s for the black vote. Obama got elected with, I think it was like 93% of the black vote between the two elections. So what that means is that she's lost 20% of her support among black minority voters. Now, why is this significant? Well, a lot of them going over to Donald Trump. And as many of you know, the Republicans have struggled for years to try to get enough black voters to come out to actually, make it worth, I don't want to say make it worth their while to compete for the votes, because it makes it sound like that we don't care about blacks except for their votes. But at the same time, when they continually vote Democrat and there's not a whole lot that will persuade them to vote otherwise, you almost have to say, why should I bother? But in this case, Trump is breaking through that firewall, and that is spelling is breaking out a lot of alarms in the Democratic Party, especially when it comes to getting Hillary elected. So he comes out and basically says that if you don't vote for Hillary Clinton, I will take it as a personal insult. What a shallow, petty man our president is. That rather than putting the country ahead of him, no, it's all about him. It's all about his legacy. But no, in actuality, it's not really about his legacy. It's more about him not getting his butt thrown in jail, because as we're finding out more and more of these emails, the president knew not only about Hillary's email server, but actually emailed to it. That is a felony, ladies and gentlemen. That is a felony of the highest degree. If you've not seen my video where I talk about how the fact that I have a top secret clearance, that I understand this secret clearance thing a little bit more than your average Joe, please do so, as I explain pretty clearly, what happens to people that, do things like this. And the fact that he emailed using a pseudonym, he knew what he was doing. He knew that this was an illegal server, and he used a pseudonym to try to hide the fact that it was him emailing Hillary Clinton off her server. He knew, ladies and gentlemen. He's just as guilty as she is. Again, if you want to see justice brought upon these people, don't vote for Hillary. Same thing with all their surrogates. We had the IRS chief getting grilled on Capitol Hill, stonewalling as usual about the the IRS scandal where they were targeting Tea Party groups and other conservative groups trying to get a 501c3, I think, or 501c, however it is, nonprofit tax recognition. And there he is again up there stonewalling. Nothing's going to get done. Okay, nothing is going to get done as long as these people are still in power. I mean, look at what happened. The revelation with FBI and James Comey this week. And I know that I've come out and I put out a video on how I believe that James Comey knew that he couldn't get a conviction off of Hillary Clinton, so that's why he held the press conference and said what he said. I still hold that to some degree that is still applicable, but unfortunately, I'm starting to doubt myself, and because of the recent revelations that have come out. James Comey accepting millions of dollars from the Clinton Foundation. The 5 aides that assisted Hillary Clinton setting up the server, Cheryl Mills and 4 others, including the IT guy that kept pleading the fifth, they all were granted immunity deals to testify. Think about that, folks. The people that knew all this information that should be going down with the ship were granted immunity deals, and Hillary Clinton has not been charged. You don't give an immunity deal to someone unless you have them dead to rights. You know they are guilty as hell, but your target is not them, but whoever is pulling the strings for them, and you want that person. And so you offer them an immunity deal in order to bring down that person. Look at what happened with a number of famous mobsters and how they were brought down. It wasn't the fact that they got sloppy. It was the fact that one of their guys below them got caught and just so happened to have the right information that the cops, the FBI, whoever it was, needed to be able to put the finger on the mobster. And the other guy got off. I mean, interesting little side note here on this, but the movie Casino, there's a famous scene where a hitman chases his target through a house and cuts him up a little bit and then takes him out to the pool yard and puts a gun on top of his head and pulls the trigger. The guy that was the hitman in that, he was the actual hitman of that real life story in real life. He became a Hollywood consultant about the mobster movies, and then when they were doing a movie about essentially his stuff, his group, and it came to that particular scene or whatever, he kept saying, "No, it's not right. It's not right. This is how it happened." And then that's when they found out that this guy was the actual hitman. He gave him essentially a play-by, and then they said, "Well, why don't we just put him in the movie then?" So how did he escape? Most prosecution from the mobster, especially the amount of people he killed, because he was granted immunity. He ratted out his bosses. And so the fact that these 5 people were granted immunity, and not one of them, not only not one of them will face justice, but not one of their testimony was enough to be able to destroy Hillary Clinton and put her behind bars for the rest of her life, which is probably short anyway, just speaks a lot to the corruption that is in our system. It is such a shame to hear that. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. It's so embarrassing that the good things I've heard about James Comey, about him being a Boy Scout, about him going after people even when it wasn't popular. It's just a huge freaking rat's nest. And I don't want you to think that I'm just getting depressed here, folks, and that I don't see any hope. No, I don't. I still believe that we have a chance to right this ship, but we're never going to get there if we don't keep exposing these people, we don't keep telling the truth. And we have to keep telling the truth. We have to keep bringing light upon this shadowy organization that has now infiltrated our government. We have to keep doing that. Oh, and then another thing about Obama that I'm just not real happy about, the whole internet handover. I'm not happy about Obama because this is just another attempt of him to subvert our sovereignty and our exceptionalism, which we all know he hates America. But I'm also not happy with Congress because they had the opportunity to stop. And the only real one that was fighting for it that I'm aware of was Ted Cruz. I didn't hear a lot of anybody else trying to pick a fight while they were in session right before they go on their break for the election. Nobody in Congress has testicles. They don't. They're a bunch of They're a bunch of pussies, each and every one of them, except for, like I said, Ted Cruz, who brought this up. They're so afraid to fight Obama because we don't want a government shutdown because then we'll get blamed and then the people won't vote for us and then we're going to lose our power. It's like, okay, so you're just going to let the country continue to slide. You're going to give away one of our greatest assets, the internet, to an international body who does not share the same First Amendment rights as we do, who does not believe that the people should be allowed to speak freely. Places like China, where you have state, where all information is controlled by the state government. There are no independent bloggers. They're all shut down. All quote-unquote independent bloggers over there are controlled by the state, or they're only allowed to post from state-sponsored media sources. North Korea is no different. In fact, North Korea is worse. Saudi Arabia is looking to take those models and implement it into their systems. This is what's going to happen. It's going to happen, folks. You can say, oh, well, it won't happen here in America. Yeah? How do you know that? All it takes is another generation of Obamas and Clintons in power, and you can kiss that part of the great thing about the internet goodbye. Yeah, there's a lot of trash on the internet, but you know what? It has offered people the greatest opportunity to get the information that is sorely needed to be able to know the truth. It's not perfect, but giving the keys away to a bunch of people that don't share those values is terrible. It is one of the worst decisions in human history. And thank you, President Obama. I wish I could truly express how I feel about you, but it would involve more four-letter words and other things that I can't really say here on in this program. But suffice it to say, you are an absolute disgrace, and I hope our paths don't cross. My only hope for this whole internet debacle thing is that there is a company out there basically developing a second internet that is supposed to be free to use and provide any information on it. I think that's what it's essentially going to come down to, is that individual corporations or individual people are going to be developing these free systems to compete with the the state-run programs and facilities at this point. I don't know exactly how this new second internet would work, but I'm in favor for anything that would preserve our freedom of speech, because if we don't have freedom of speech, then what good is it that I'm doing right now? What good is it that anybody is doing, going up on Twitter and Facebook and anything else and trying to post stories to expose the truth and expose these people for the lying, thieving, backstabbing assholes they are? It won't. If the internet is not free, ladies and gentlemen, and I can't stress this enough, if the internet is not free for all the filth that is out there, then we, the people, do not have a means to not only express ourselves, but to exchange the truth freely. We don't. You can't rely on the media. The media is in the back pocket of the Democratic Party and the leftist. You can't rely on Hollywood because the same thing. You can't rely on newspapers because same thing. All these major news institutions that were once held in high regard have essentially bowed down at the altar of globalism and leftism. You just can't trust any outside sources. You have some talk radio sources, and that's probably the only bastion that's left where you can get free information. But how long until they close that down? That's what made the internet so great. Because once you put it out on the internet, it stayed out on the internet. But if they have the ability to control it, to basically keep you from getting the posting up onto the internet, then what good is it? It just becomes nothing more than another leftist rag, like the New York Times. Speaking of the New York Times, by the way, did you hear their stupid article about how Ohio is no longer the bellwether state when it comes to presidential elections? Nowhere in the history of calling Ohio a bellwether state has that ever changed. For the last, I don't even know how many elections, but it's usually, there is a saying that as Ohio goes, so goes the rest of the nation. And right now, New York Times is saying, "Oh, well, we can't we can't say that anymore because Ohio's changed so much since the previous elections to where it's now an unreliable source for to be a bellwether." What do you mean by change so much? You mean the fact that, the Hillary Clinton campaign realizes that it's a lost cause to win Ohio because she says she'll put coal miners out of business, and that she supported TPP and her husband supported NAFTA and basically gutted the manufacturing industry that was so prevalent for Ohio and other Rust Belt states there. And so now she's losing by outside of the margin of error to Donald Trump in that state. And so because he's got a very good chance of winning that state, that all of a sudden it's no longer a bellwether state. Do you not understand what's going on, people? What is happening is that the Praetorian Guard, the media, is trying to protect Hillary. We've already seen it a number of times with her health issues, with the emails, with her lying, you name it. And they're right there to basically shield her and try to deflect or obfuscate or spin it however they want, however it is they want it. That is become their job. Hillary Clinton doesn't need to spend millions of dollars on advertisements. She just needs to pay off the right people that own CBS, ABC, NBC, and all these other worthless news stations to keep them spinning. And you have, like I said, New York Times now doing another spin by trying to say that Ohio isn't a bellwether state anymore. Why do people still read these rags? Other than, the leftist globalists that think that that's the truth to them. Those people are far gone. Those people are... Why does anybody else ever pay attention to these rags anymore? I don't know. But what I do know is that they don't like the rules. They don't... Let me try that again. They don't like the way the game is ending up for their candidate, Hillary Clinton. They see that the regular rules that have been, quote-unquote, the gold standard for I don't know how many presidential elections are now all of a sudden thrown out the window because Donald J. Trump is innovating the political process. True innovators find a way to work around the rules that exist to bring about a truly new experience. You look at any of the great minds that have brought us art or inventions or what have you, but a lot of them were paradigm shifts in thinking. From Galileo to Edison and using electricity to light up a home, to even Walt Disney and how he handled animation. All these people have figured out how to work around the rigors of whatever the ruling system is to be able to break through. And that's what Trump has done. He's broken through the establishment hold on the people. And because of that, now all of a sudden, the New York Times and all these other media sources want to change the rules. so they can keep their person in play for the presidency. I won't say that Trump is going to win for sure, but again, the fact that he's winning Ohio, and up until this point, at least according to the New York Times, that Ohio is the bellwether, that, as Ohio goes, the rest of the nation goes. I like the chances that we have right now. And you're just gonna see more about. You're gonna see more of this, unfortunately, because, like I said, the media is in full spin mode to try to get Hillary elected, and they'll do just about anything to make that happen. But we're not seeing any enthusiasm on the Hillary side, and it's not helping the fact that she's come out and said, "Oh, I'm going to raise the estate tax, i.e., the death tax, to 65%." Well, great. You just basically condemned every small farm and small business. All the families that own that, yeah, you're basically going to put them into poverty, or they're going to have to sell their business, sell their farm. She doesn't care. None of these people care. And that's why people are not going behind Hillary. Her little rant the other day, why aren't I 50 points ahead? Well, maybe because you're an unlikable person. Maybe because you call Bernie Sanders supporters basement dwellers and make fun of them. Maybe because you call Trump supporters the basket of deplorables, racist, sexist, homophobes, bigots. Maybe because you trash women, especially the women that unfortunately cross paths with your husband. Maybe it's because, I don't know, you lie. You say that you're against Wall Street, and then you take money from them with undisclosed speeches. Which, by the way, that was a point Trump should have hit on in the last debate, but hopefully he'll make up for it in the next one. I have confidence he will. Hey, let's go ahead and move on to, and let's talk, let me just go ahead and get this out of the way here about that last debate. So, it became a meme, Trump sniffle, because he was on his, in the microphone, you can hear him snort. I don't know if you can hear me sniffing to the mic or not there, but it was really loud. And for anyone that does not understand how microphones work and how recording work or whatever, when you go to take a breath, it can be recorded on if you don't have the right settings on your computer. I know that in the past, some of my earlier videos, it was really bad. I had to edit out all those breathe takes that I had. Well, that's what Trump was doing, was that he was doing short breaths through his nose. He wasn't breathing through his mouth because that would have looked awkward and stupid. Just sit there with your mouth hanging open, taking a deep breath in. And he said that, and everybody comes, maybe he has a cold. He's making fun of Hillary's, but here you go, Trump sniffles. Okay, this guy sounds like he's sick or whatever. And so he comes out and he says, they gave me a defective microphone. So they made fun of him for that. Oh, you're going to blame your poor performance on a bad microphone? Oh, please, you're such a baby and all that. And then like Thursday or Friday, the debate commission came out and said, yeah, he did have a defective microphone. He was on the right in this one. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, Trump has been proven right. And nobody's really reporting this. It gets real frustrating sometimes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to lie. Trying to speak the truth and try to get the truth out there, yeah, it is a full-time job. Unfortunately, I can't do this full-time. And then you also have the outrage going on for Donald Jr.'s Skittles comment. And if you haven't heard this comment, it's not a brand new thing. It's essentially just taking an old argument. You can use M&Ms, you can use chips, whatever it is. But the premise is that we're taking all these refugees in. Okay, what if I give you a bowl of Skittles and said 3 of them were poison? Would you take them? Would you take any of the Skittles? And the point being that you're using a metaphor to describe the fact that if you don't know, which ones are poisonous, then you're probably not going to take Skittles because you don't want to die. So then why are we, bringing in all these refugees, all these people from the Middle East, from Somalia, that are not only Islamic, okay, but possibly have ties to the Islamic State or any other terrorist organization, or they have sympathies for? Why are we bringing these people in if we can't properly vet them and know who's good and who's not? That's exactly what we're doing. But never mind the fact that what Donald Jr. was using was a metaphor to basically explain that, it's stupid to try to take a bunch of Skittles that you don't know which ones are poison. Everybody gets all up in arms the fact you're comparing people to Skittles. People aren't candy. You're just racist. Oh God. I know it's the media. I know that they're, trying to distract the fact that, Hillary has all these flaws and everything, but even by that stretch of even that's terrible for them. I mean, that's the sort of thing that as soon as you say it, you just kind of go, oh, wow, I shouldn't have said that. That was really bad. I'm sorry. Donald Jr., that we overreacted on that one. We don't necessarily agree with you about the whole, Skittle thing or whatever, because, we are being told that they're being vetted properly. Oh, wait, no, they're not, according to top government officials that have said that there's no way to properly vet them. I mean, I listened to a whole thing about who was it? No, it wasn't Sessions. Was it Gomer? It was one of the people on the immigration, one of the congressmen on the immigration council. No, Ted Cruz. That's what it was. Ted Cruz, and he was grilling a immigration official about the fact that we can't. Are we probably vetting these people? And he got him on record to say, to admit, how they were vetting them, and it wasn't secure. It wasn't like, okay, it was essentially, do you just take their word if you can't, even if you don't have any supporting documentation? Yes, there are instances where we have taken people's word, where even if we don't have documentation to back it up. So you could say anything to come over here as a refugee, and no one's going to question it. And you have ISIS people dressing up as women trying to get into refugee camps so they can get over here. Jiminy, people. These next few months are just going to be one hell of a time for this country if we ever survive it. Oh, and then, I'm going to piggyback off of this here. People whining about the whole Skittles comment. And even the whoever the company is that owns Skittles coming out and saying that Skittles are candy, refugees are people. Well, duh. The stupidity of these people just coming out and saying this. I'm going to transition into another thing. People whining about the upcoming Disney movie Moana. If you've not seen the trailers for it, it's another Disney princess movie, this time taking place in the Polynesias or Hawaii or something like that. And it tells the story of the Polynesian demigod Maui. So the Disney Corporation put out for Halloween, in order to gin up support for the movie and kind of advertise for themselves, a Moana Halloween costume that was essentially a full-body suit of the demigod Maui's tattoos with a grass skirt. And everybody on the left started complaining about, oh, that's cultural appropriation of the Polynesias, and how dare you do that? And this is racist. This is brownface, or this is blackface for brown. It's like, oh, just once I would love for a corporation to just give the proverbial middle finger and tell these people to go take a hike. I would love to see somebody with enough balls to say, you know what, I will take the PR flack for this one because I am not backing down for this. It's so stupid. First they complain about the character being obese and how basically try to fat shame Disney. Not all Polynesians are fat or obese. That's a negative stereotype. Did anybody ever bother to read the Polynesian tales and lore of Maui? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm an expert on it, but from what I've gathered just in the short little things that I've read about it, he wasn't a, fit, trim guy. He did have a little weight to him, but he was strong. And it's like doing a movie about Hercules and then replacing all the muses with black and having oh god, no, Disney already did that. I'm sorry. Yes, they already did that. Another weird choice for them. And it's not the fact that, the muses were black. It's just the fact that if you were actually to do a real representation of the Herculean myths, chances are the muses would not have been black because Greek society was made up primarily of white folk. So the muses would probably be depicted as white. In cultures where you have a predominantly one set of person, most of the tales and so forth are going to be about that set. The Romans were, white, so their tales or legends were, white people. The Africans were black people, and you have their tales are about black heroes and so forth, and villains. I mean, it's you tell stories based on the culture that you know. It wasn't really until you started seeing a migration of different cultures into among the world that you actually started getting different colored people and in stories like Othello by Shakespeare. But again, that was more of an anomaly because you look at the rest of Shakespeare's plays, and I would say like 97% of his characters are white. So you take it what it is for, but I think Disney made a mistake pulling that costume off the shelf. I think they should have just told everybody, you know what, if you don't like it, then don't buy it. But for everybody else that, maybe would like to dress up as Maui, little kids that think that Maui's so cool because he got a magical fish hook that can pull islands out of the sea, and that he's really strong, maybe, it can inspire some kids to, work out and just, instead of, sitting on their butt all day playing video games, which I have nothing against video games. I love video games. Okay, but at the same time, I think parents should not be sitting their kids down in front of the TV and let the TV be the babysitter. Kick those kids out, let them run around the backyard for 3 hours a day, tire themselves out. That's neither here nor there, though. So, I'm tired of this PC crap that just keeps getting shoved down our throats because nobody has the cojones to stand up and say, you know what, screw you, I'm doing this. Well, I take that back. You have people like Milo and Trump that are doing it, and their attitude, I think, is inspiring a lot more people to wake up and push back against the PC crap. But it's just the more vocal of the two groups is the PC crowd. Unfortunately, it's just so stupid. It really is. Oh, and then you know what? I'm gonna use this to jump off to my next topic here. Okay, so the PC crowd is ticked off with Disney for basically putting an obese character in their new animated movie. And then they turn around and they jump down Trump's throat because he supposedly called Miss Venezuela, aka Miss Universe, way back in 1996-97, Miss Piggy. Because right after she won the crown, she put on 60 pounds. So you can't win with these people. And they're so hypocritical that they'll, like I said, you can't have an obese character because that's a bad example for a kid. But then you can't call a fat person fat. You can't body shame them. You have to accept them for who they are. But in Trump's case, when it came to Miss Universe here, she had an image to hold up. Let's just call them what they were, beauty pageants. Okay, you don't see fat chicks in the Miss America or Miss Universe pageants. You just don't. You see nice, fit, tall, slender, well-endowed women in beauty pageants. That's the market. And when this woman gained 60 pounds, she broke her contract because they have to maintain their image if they win. Well, Trump could have fired her. He didn't. He worked with her instead to try to get her down. And this is how she repays him. Yeah, this is how you know that the Clinton campaign and the Democrats are desperate. Because they cannot break Trump's momentum. They may have slowed it down a little bit with the debates, but even then, that's really debatable. I mean, some polls are coming out and saying that Hillary Clinton is rising in the polls after the debates. I find that highly, highly suspect. I truly do. And here's the reason why. First off, the polls that are given, I've checked out some of these. They don't show you the demographics. They don't show you how many people they interviewed. They don't break it down between Republican, Democrat, anything like that. They don't show that to you. They just say that this is what we took from this time period to this time period. On occasion, when they do show, how many people they interviewed, very rarely do I ever find one that's 1,000 people or more. And then at the same time, you have the fact that some polls, like the LA Times polls, which interviews 3,000 people, and I think over half of them are like the same people that they interview, and then they switch out, a few hundred on a daily basis, continues to have Trump ahead of Clinton. Even after the debates, they continue to have Trump ahead of Clinton. And then at the same time, you would think that if there was some momentum going towards Hillary, like as the quote-unquote polls are saying, then why is it that she really can't draw anything more than flies at her crowds? There is no enthusiasm. This is why she's lashing out. This is why she's making those comments about, why aren't I 50 points ahead? And calling us basket of deplorables and calling Bernie supporters basement dwellers. Because she is a spiteful woman who believes that it should be handed to her, and the fact that we aren't just bowing down and kissing her ass is really pissing her off. Now, as far as what is going to be happening the rest of this campaign season, my little prediction, crystal ball, whatever you want to say, is this. As we just saw in the last couple weeks, where Cruz came on board the Trump train, and basically said, you know what? I know what I said at the convention. Vote your conscience. Well, my conscience is telling me vote for Trump now. And he gave 6 reasons why. And then you also saw the Ricketts family, who were never Trumpers, who are big-time GOP donors, now all of a sudden backing Trump. You are going to see more and more of these never Trump types that may have gone for Cruz, that may have gone for the Bushes or whatever. They may, whoever it was that they went, you're going to see a lot more of them now coming out and backing Trump, whether privately or publicly. Why do I say this? Because even rats know what a good deal is when they see it. And if they're going to be left out of a good deal, then they're just going to hurt themselves. So I'm not saying that I think that the Ricketts or Cruz's conversion to the Trump train is genuine or not genuine. It could be for all I know. What I am saying, though, is that for these people that want to maintain some sort of relevance in the coming political sphere, that they have to basically get on the train. If you're not on the train, then you're not going to have any influence. That is also a good indication that perhaps what we have been seeing with regards to Trump gaining momentum is actually coming to fruition. Again, rats leave a sinking ship before the people do. But at the same time, they would also come back if they know that the ship is basically gonna win and pull into port. I have a feeling that we will see more and more of these never Trumpers come back into the fold. There's going to be some that will be too far gone, like your Ben Howes, your Shapiros, your Bill Kristols, your Mitt Romneys, and all these other idiots that are trying to put up a third-party candidate to try to sink Trump. Screw them. Just don't even bother with them anymore. It was such a shame that, the other day I was listening to the Glenn Beck interview where Ted Cruz called in and was explaining his reasoning for backing Trump. And the entire time, Beck sounded like he was on the verge of a breakdown. Like, just balls out, sobbing right there on the microphone over the fact that his buddy, Cruz, was leaving him. Those people, you just can't reason with. Don't even bother. Nor do I see that those people going with Gary Johnson can you reason with, because how in God's green earth can you back Gary Johnson? That guy is a Fruit Loop. That guy is, just one keg short of a party. Although he thinks he is, the life of the party, the way he acts. I mean, he's sitting down at an interview. Multiple interviews here. And him and his partner, him and his running mate, they're asked, what world leader do you admire the most? Let's see, what? How do you not know at least one world leader? How do you not know? I mean, I could name you 5 right now. And I don't care about the rest of the world. I care about America. And then his other gaff about, East and West Korea. You had a 50-50 chance to get this right, and you blew it. I'm sorry. North and South Korea, we only fought a war there. We only, sent, however many people over there to die back in the 50s. It's no big deal. It's just, the Koreas, no biggie. How do you people take Gary Johnson seriously? How does anybody take Gary Johnson seriously? He's doing an interview. This was on MSNBC, Good Morning Joe, I think, or whatever the show is with Joe Scarborough. And the chick, his chick co-host had, they were doing a little segment on Gary Johnson, and she said, well, this was certainly the most unique interview I've ever seen. And so there's Gary Johnson, and then they go to a video, they show Gary Johnson and a female MSNBC reporter sitting on a bench, and they're talking. And in the middle of the interview, I kid you not, as Gary Johnson is answering, halfway through his answer, I don't even remember the question. Because halfway through it, he sticks his tongue out in between his teeth, and he starts talking like this the whole rest of the way. I'm not joking. How does anybody take Gary Johnson seriously? This guy is a freaking Looney Tune. Go look it up. I mean, it's truly, like, some people will laugh. If you're like me, you're just astounded by the fact that this guy has 8% polling. How retarded are his followers? And what's his, like, common policy or whatever? Oh, well, if you don't like the other 2 choices, vote for me. That's not a policy. That's not a reason to vote for you. Why should I vote for you? What makes you any different than these other candidates? Well, because I'm not part of the other parties. I know, genius. But why should I give a damn about the libertarians? Especially when you sit and you stick your tongue out like this, like a retard. There is no reason for it. There's just, like people get on Trump for quote unquote making fun of a disabled reporter, even though he was not making fun of him. There's evidence to back up the fact that he was making the motion he did to signify that he was being flustered because he used it against 3 other people, including Ted Cruz. But yet this guy starts talking like he's got Down syndrome. Gary Johnson sticks his tongue out, starts talking like he's got Down syndrome, and no reason whatsoever, and nobody is calling him out for it. I mean, is it just the fact that he's just one of these people that okay, just Okay, that's real nice there, Johnny. Just go over there now. That's nice. Go play with your friends. Yes, yes. Okay. I mean, is that how we're treating him? No, no, no. Just no. I You take the immatureness of that, and then you compare it to Trump, who can be brash, who can be braggadocious, who can at times, even on me, and I'm a fan of his. Okay, great on, because it's like, why are you, tooting your own horn here when you should be focusing more on your policies? But he's just shown significant amounts of leadership qualities and maturity when compared to the likes of Gary Johnson. I don't see Gary Johnson going down to Mexico and doing a press conference with the Mexican president in a professional manner. I don't see Gary Johnson sitting down with Netanyahu like Trump did this last week and talking about the wall and talking about how he'll recognize Jerusalem as the Israeli capital, which is a complete change in the American policy. But, it's a good change. I don't see, Gary Johnson putting out serious policy plans like Trump put out his energy policy, where he basically says, well, I like the idea of green energy, but it's not going to be our sole focus. We're going to diversify. We're going to have our green energy. We're also going to have, the technology that we have now, because we can to expand on clean coal, clean natural gas, nuclear, things like that. I mean, you have a serious man in Trump, and yet Gary Johnson is still polling like 8 to 9% in the polls. How? Just how? I don't know. I don't know, people. I just really don't know. All right, let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. Get off of some political things here and just start talking about some other things that happen around the country. Anthony Weiner is back on the news, exposing himself to... I'm sorry, not exposing himself. That was the last time. I'm sorry. He was caught sexing with a 15-year-old girl. How is this guy not put behind bars? I don't know. But now Huma has decided to dump his butt, divorce him, and now she gets to spend all her time in the arms of her lover, Hillary Clinton. Good for them. Like I care. We've had police shootings in Tulsa, Charlotte, and San Diego, unfortunately, this past week. Tulsa, quiet. Charlotte, riots. And now you're seeing uprisings in San Diego. Now, I posted on, why did Charlotte see riots and not Tulsa? Even though the shooting in Charlotte was certainly justifiable. The guy had a gun. While in Tulsa, the guy didn't have a gun. There wasn't a gun in the car. I still wouldn't be reaching in through the car window while the cop's telling me not to. But again, you certainly have more of a case in Tulsa for police brutality than you do in Charlotte. So I've already written on that. So go check out my website under the writing section to find that piece where I break it down. But now you have San Diego. Well, El Cajon, which is just above San Diego. Now having riots, or not riots, but protest by the locals there over this shooting. Everybody's ignoring the fact that A, this guy was probably in this country illegally from Africa. B, he had mental health issues, so why wasn't he being treated for it? C, he pulled an object out of his pocket and pointed it at the police, like a gun motion. There's a museum in Las Vegas, the Mob Museum. Great place. I recommend everybody goes there. Because there's a little section where it talks about some of the police technology that they had to bust these mobsters. And there's a interactive portion of the museum where you get to be in the shoes of a cop. And you get to stand in front of the screen and you get to watch a situation play out in front of you. And in my case, I got a chase where a cop sees a dude poking around a car, and then when the cop says, "Hey, do you need help? You locked out?" the guy takes off. So suspicious activity. Then you see the camera follow the guy, chasing him around. You get around a corner, and you see the guy's back towards you as he tries to climb a fence. He's kind of a fatty fat, so he doesn't get very far. He falls off, and then he still has his back towards you. You see his hands just, kind of fidgeting around, and then he whips around with a pistol pointed right at you. And in this exhibit, you had a little gun that you could point at the screen and shoot, and you were basically, it was basically a test to see, test your reflexes, but also to basically test your discernment. Could you honestly tell whether the guy had a gun or not? And in my case, yeah, the guy actually did have a gun, and I had a split second, and they showed, I think at the end, they showed where my shots landed, and then the timing of my shots, and when he actually squeezed off a round as well. And it was almost nanoseconds between my shot and his shot. I'm pretty sure I got hit from it, but I think I beat the simulation. I beat I managed to shoot him by 0.01 second or something like that. It's truly eye-opening to experience that and just say, cops have literally that amount of time to make that tough call about whether or not they need to draw their weapon and fire. And if they don't do that, then they're dead. And so everybody's forgetting this, especially when it comes to what's happening in, Charlotte and San Diego. It's a shame because San Diego is such a nice area. It's a shame it's attached to California. But this is what you get when you have leftists in charge, because they, by and large, side with the criminals more than they do with the police. Anyway, it's only going to get worse, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, until we actually get a president that isn't staying silent like Obama is now, or taking the side, or anybody in his administration taking the side of these thugs and so forth. Then it's just going to keep happening, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but it's just going to keep happening. Oh, then we get... Here's another person that I really wish we didn't have to deal with, and that's Pope Francis. Calling journalism against mass immigration terrorism. Essentially, I'm just going to boil down the whole article because it's too much time to try to explain the entire thing. But essentially, if you don't accept mass immigration, if you don't accept refugees, if you speak out against them, then you're no better than the terrorist. Only in a diseased leftist mind does that make any sense. But unfortunately, that's what this Pope is. He's a diseased leftist. And it's such a shame. What this Pope fails to realize is that speaking out against mass migration, the refugee camp, is not because we don't like these people or that we don't want to help our fellow man. It's because these people are posing serious security risk. You look at what's happening in Europe, where women are being raped. Sweden had virtually no rapes to speak of, and now it's the rape capital of the world, or second, in the world. How? Because of migrants, because of refugees, because of the Islamic assholes that come over there and ruin it. And yet this Pope is trying to shame us into saying that because we aren't accepting of these people, that we are somehow no better than terrorists. No! Bull! We are better than them because we choose life, because we say, we're not going to let these evildoers into our country where they get to ruin our families, ruin our society. We have a job to protect our society. And this is something that is spelled out clearly in the Catholic Church Catechism. And yet this Pope chooses to ignore it. As I said before, it's just a true shame. It really is. Pray for him. I, as a Catholic, I am truly ashamed that he is my Pope. I really am. But I don't wish ill will against him because he's still Christ's representative here on earth. And I can't, in good conscience, say that I would like to see him dead or anything like that. Instead, I would say that we need to pray for him and pray that he comes to his senses and stops these shenanigans. Voting in 37 days, ladies and gentlemen. We are almost in the home stretch, and we are hearing more stories of voting machines being hacked. People are blaming the Russians for it. They're saying there's some big conspiracy that the Russians may be trying to throw this election. Could they? Sure. Maybe. But, what if it's also an attempt by, government officials to, that Jay Johnson of the Department of Homeland Security is trying to get the election grid, if you will, put as a critical resource or critical critical utility. I forgot what the exact wordage is, but basically have it fall under the purview of Department of Homeland Security from now on. So what if this is just an attempt by the government to, quote unquote, create a problem so that way they can, quote unquote, fix it themselves? Kind of like how over the summer, the TSA had those hours-long lines, and they were trying to get more funding, and they're saying that, we don't have enough funding to hire people to, do our job effectively or whatever. And then like almost overnight, the lines were gone. And it just so happened to happen while there was a big budget debate going on in Congress. And as soon as that debate was over, then the lines were gone. This is what it feels like to me, that this is just a manufactured crisis on the part of the government to try to get more power for themselves. And especially when it's something as important as the election cycle, do not trust the federal government with the election ballots. I mean, you want to know what happens? You know what should happen if the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, decides to just go ahead and take all election functions? What should happen? The Battle of Athens, Tennessee, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't know what that is, go look it up. I might have to do a special video on that just to explain what happened, but not here now. Oh, some sad news in the sports world. We had one great legend, Arnold Palmer, the golf legend, and then you had a young immigrant, naturalized citizen, Hernandez, I think. I forgot what his first name is. Jose Hernandez, maybe, who escaped from Cuba and was playing for the Marlins down in Miami, and he died in a tragic boat accident. So thoughts and prayers go out to their families. You also have another departure. Vin Scully is retiring from announcing for the Los Angeles Dodgers after 67 years. Think about that, folks. He was still announcing for the Dodgers when they were known as the Brooklyn Dodgers. 67 years. And I remember watching games, because my dad's a Dodger fan. I remember watching games growing up and hearing his voice. And it sounds weird not knowing that he's not going to be there anymore. So wish you fair winds and following scenes there, Ben. Thanks very much for all the good times. And I'm going to close off with this little funny note here. This, no joke, is a headline. And it's one of those that you just catch yourself going, huh? Am I reading that correctly? Here it is. Denzel Washington pleads guilty to harassing Aretha Franklin, his mother. Yes, you heard that right. No, it is not the same Denzel Washington or Aretha Franklin. It turns out to be two different people that just so happen to share that name and their son and mother. But again, if you had only read the headline of that article, you'd probably be thinking Denzel is harassing his mother. What is going on there? Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. It's been fun. It's been great. Check out my website, posting more videos, more writings there. I'm also working on, again, I said I'm working on those voting videos. I actually am recording them this week, and I will be getting them out sometime within the near future. Now that we're in the home stretch, this is, now the time to shine. This is the time to stand strong and get those last few people that are still on the fence. So check out my website. Like me on Facebook, find me on Twitter at Athanasius Rep, and I will be joining up more and more social media sites in the near future. In the meantime, folks, continue to pray for this country. Continue to pray that God has mercy on us and spares us the thought of a Hillary Clinton presidency. And just keep working on people to vote for Trump. Again, he's not a perfect man, but compared to what we have, he's the best man that we have right now. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. See you soon. Christ peace.